Hello, DevOps friends. I'm Jochen, the Monospace Mentor, and I'm back, baby. Back from holiday, so welcome to Full Stack Live, my live coding channel. And yeah, I'm happy to be back. It's great. I got to rest a little bit over Easter. I spent some time with family in Germany, and the first week I spent mostly working, actually, which was interesting. Working from a completely different place with only minimal hardware setup, but it was quite nice. I had my laptop with me, I had my trusted Cornish Zen keyboard, which is easy to travel with and still great to type on. And I actually got myself an old monitor as well, so I had a nice little workplace in my room. And so I was able to do some work, partly on my company's hosting platform and in part on monospacementor.com, and especially on the server room, the community platform that I'm about to launch. Launch date is getting closer. I think we are almost ready to go, and so it'll be by we'll have launched by the end of the month. I'm pretty sure about that, and we might be doing some work towards that today, actually. And then after Easter, the week after Easter, I took off almost completely. I was quite disciplined and was able to recharge my batteries. I did have to write my newsletter in advance, so it went out punctually, as always, on Monday morning. And if you'd like to subscribe to my newsletter, it's not long and it doesn't have any spammy content. It's just my Monospace Mentor monologue, which is basically me writing a post about a specific topic and then a few reading recommendations, completed by a few interesting links, if there are any, to my blog as well. So if you're interested in that, feel free to subscribe on monospacementor.com. And I wonder why the button for the link doesn't work. So let me take a look at that quite quickly. I actually don't know how that button is supposed to work anymore. What does this button do? It's supposed to send a chat command to Twitch, which it didn't. So let's see if the Twitch connection... Yeah, it says connecting. It's not connecting, I assume. So let's kick that off again. And here we go. The red dots have disappeared. And here's the link for you if you'd like to subscribe to my newsletter. I'm happy to be back. I would have done a live coding stream on Tuesday already, but there was a business meeting that I couldn't reschedule, and so that's why today is our first live coding stream after my holidays, after the Easter break. Balthazar, welcome to the stack. Good to have you. I hope you're doing great. I hope you're not too stressed out. Let me know how things are. I also have a little bit of a changed setup here, as you might have seen. I've changed the position of my camera. I actually got rid of the teleprompter, which I don't need, at least not at the moment. And I also changed my streaming setup in terms of monitors here a little bit, and I think it's improved, but we'll see about that. One interesting thing that I changed yesterday is that I changed the GNOME extension that I'm using for tidying windows. I do use GNOME because of its advanced features and its convenience. But when I sent a post on Mastodon recently talking about the Tiling Assistant extension that I had been using, someone recommended to me PaperWM, and that's quite the interesting extension, and I'm using it since yesterday. It basically combines desktop workspaces with the virtual desktop that we might have used back in the day when we only had resolutions like 1024 by 768 or something like that, where if you move the mouse, your screen actually scrolls. And PaperWM applies that principle to tiling windows, which is pretty interesting, and I'm going to demonstrate that to you in a moment. Good to see, Balthazar, that you're mostly okay. Always concerned when I see you post on Discord about being a little bit under pressure. Speaking of Discord, if you'd like to join our Discord, which is a very friendly place where you can learn about DevOps, software engineering, system administration, and all the other things, feel free to join us over there as well. And yeah, so let me demonstrate what PaperWM actually does. Take a look at that. So this is my monitor that I use for sharing my screen on stream. And it's not too different, but as you can see, the browser window is cut off. Even though I'm sharing my full screen, that's the full 27-inch screen that I have in front of me. So it's not that I've cropped it or anything. That's what PaperWM does. If I want to have my windows as wide as they are, PaperWM obliges. And once I go over with the mouse, and of course there are also keyboard commands, the desktop scrolls and reveals the rest of the window. And if I open another window of that type, which is also easy by pressing Super Enter, so if I press Super Enter, I should get a new browser window. PaperWM extends my desktop to the right. Let's open up this tab here. And if I go back here, nothing happens because this window is still fully visible. And if I go to the edge of my screen, it tells me, well, there's another window actually. And if I click that, it scrolls over. It's weird, isn't it? Yesterday I was quite confused, and when I had to open new windows or find existing windows during a Zoom call, I got flustered and completely confused. I couldn't find my window anymore, and I didn't know on which monitor it was and things like that. So it was really weird, but I think I'm getting a grip on it. And yeah, so that's one single workspace here with 3 windows. Let's close this down again, and the workspace shrinks down again. And as you can see, I don't even have to click here. I just move the mouse over, and PaperWM realizes, okay, let's reveal the window in full. It's necessary at the moment. And on top of that, I still have my workspaces, so I can jump up and down here between my workspaces. And the same applies to the other monitor as well. So I had to start a new way to arrange my windows and where to put which window, where does my calendar go, where does Spotify go, all these things. I'll admit, I do like this. And if it weren't for one thing, I now would feel stupid for replacing my ultrawide monitor with 2 separate 27-inch monitors. Because PaperWM must work beautifully on an ultrawide, because ultrawide is already made to put windows next to each other, and having PaperWM extend that virtually ad infinitum must be pretty great, I think. The only reason why I don't regret switching my monitor setup is that having a separate monitor that I can share on stream or on a Zoom call is much easier than actually having to crop parts of an ultra-wide monitor and making sure everything fits in there. So I'm still happy with having a dual monitor setup here. But if you have an ultrawide monitor, give PaperWM a try if you're a GNOME user. It does feel quite interesting, and it's growing to me. Well, now, anything else that I'd like to update you on? Well, I don't think so. Which means that we now have to find out what we're going to do. And by we, I mean us. Is there anything that you'd like me to do? Because I don't have any plan for today. I only got back to work yesterday, and the day was full of video calls. And today I had another video call in the morning, and shortly after the call ended, suddenly there was lunchtime, and I had to go out fetch lunch, and then I returned to start the stream. So I did not have any opportunity to make any plans for this stream. We could continue my work on Ansible, which I did continue after the last stream I covered it in. That would be one thing that we could do. I'm working on an Ansible playbook that allows me to set up cloud instances to provide students who participate in my courses with VMs on which they can do practical exercises and experiments, things like that. I did think about using my home server here, because it should have enough capacity to run a few VMs for my students, but maybe that's something that we can discuss. And the playbook that I've been working on has been evolved quite nicely. It does set up the VMs I asked it to, and we can get into that in detail if you like. Bethesda says, I've been feeling the itch to revive my Linux environment on my desktop. Pretty sure I won't be upgrading to Windows 11 when 10 goes end of life, so I'll be moving my gaming and other shenanigans back to Linux of some flavor. I can only encourage you to do so, actually, Balthazar. Give me just a second. I'm talking too much. Not on the stream, but with all the video calls. Talk. No work. That doesn't fly. Remind me to hydrate from time to time. There's a viewer reward that you can redeem to get me to fill up with fluids. So yeah, I mean, you know how I got back to Linux on the desktop. I thought I would switch from macOS to Windows, installed Linux as a dual boot, and then I realized I don't need Windows, and I'd be surprised if the same didn't happen to you, or wouldn't happen to you. The choice of distribution, of course, is something that's really up to your needs and fancies. Pop! OS is definitely a good choice, and seeing how the new Cosmic Desktop is coming along, that's written in Rust and completely built from scratch. I'd be curious. There is a Universal Blue spin of the Cosmic Desktop, actually, that I could use with my Fedora Silverblue setup. Basic Panther, welcome. Thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. Yeah, I might actually be trying out the Cosmic Desktop myself on Ubuntu, on Fedora. And so if you're happy with Pop! OS, I don't see any need to change, except, of course, if the itch that you were talking about also includes exploring something new. In this case, I would highly recommend giving Fedora Silverblue, and especially the uBlue variants of that a try. I'm having really so much fun using Fedora. It's really the first distribution that I feel never stands in my way. Basic Panda says, gaming on Linux has had so much progress in recent years. It's mostly competitive games with certain anti-cheats that don't work. Exactly. And for me, as a casual gamer, it was part... it was a huge part of my decision to switch to Linux, because both World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV worked brilliantly on Linux, which I did not expect to happen. Part of why I said I'll switch from macOS to Windows was that it was common knowledge that Windows works better for games, especially if you use a more recent GPU. So I said, yeah, let's switch to Windows. We'll still have WSL to get my Linux fix, but I'll get the gaming experience as well. Then I installed Linux, and of course that completely covered the Linux fix. But then I installed Lutris and realized, hey, what? I don't need Windows in the first place. And yeah, that's what bless Proton, praise Gabe, definitely. Yeah, and then suddenly the Windows partition on my desktop vanished and Linux took over the whole machine, except for a small Windows VM that I'm still running to use the Affinity suite of graphics applications. I started using the Affinity suite on macOS, was happy that it was available on Windows too. And that's the only reason why I'm spinning up a Windows VM from time to time when I have to change my stream overlays or something like that. So, yeah, good times. Good times. Okay, let me make a small change behind the scenes. I have a chat window here that is a little bit too big. Can I change the scale to 1 here? I guess that should do the trick. I'll see once you send another message in chat, because by changing the font or scaling size, then that cleared my chat window and I can't see how big the fonts are going to be now. Okay. So, yeah, at least I can show you what I did in terms of Ansible lately. Let's do a little bit of show and tell here, shall we? That's going to be in my Cloud repository. Yep, here we go. So what I did was, that's what I built here. It's a very simple playbook so far. Wait, that's not up to date. I did work on my laptop during my Easter holidays. So let's go and pull those latest changes. I just thought, well, that looks a little bit too simplistic. Yeah, here we go. Oh, okay, so you don't like the tiling. I did actually really like the tiling, and that was what encouraged me to look if what tiling extensions there are for GNOME. Because PopOS introduced me to the Cosmic Shell, and I didn't realize that there was tiling available for GNOME in the first place. So that's how I got to use Tiling Assistant, and now I'm using PaperWM, which is weird and fun. Gtile, is that still maintained? Okay. Keyboard shortcuts to move things into places. Okay, so just to demonstrate that too, I still don't I still don't have any all the keyboard shortcuts memorized for PaperWM, but it's pretty neat. So, for example, if I don't want to have my browser window extend beyond the edge of the screen, I can simply use Super R for resize, and that will use 3 different widths, which I can switch between. So that's nice. That's I think enough for me. And the same goes for vertical tiling as well. You can of course tile vertically too. So let's, for example, create another browser window here, and simply by pressing Super I, those then get stacked on top of each other, and so that basically pulls that window in and stacks them vertically, and by Super O I'll pull it out again. So that's something that I can memorize. That does make sense. There is some logic behind it. Okay, let's get back to the Ansible playbook here. Just a second. What's that? Okay, I accidentally pressed Super plus instead of Control plus. Interesting, huh? Okay. That seems to extend the size of windows even more than Super R does with its preset widths. Okay. What I meant to do was increase the font size a little bit more for you. So here we have the student instances, and if you saw the state of the playbook before I pulled in my latest changes, you saw that I simply had a list of 3 servers with identical tasks to set them up on Hetzner Cloud. But of course, I needed to have that a little bit more sophisticated. And so what I did was I created a file called servers.yaml, where I simply enumerate the servers that I'd like to set up. And then at the moment, I'm reading this into a variable, or into the Ansible variables in general. And then I can, for example, here iterate over the servers and provision a Hetzner Cloud instance for each of these servers listed. And that, of course, then registers them in a list called hcloud servers. And then I can go ahead and also configure them, which I do not yet. The only thing that I'm doing down here is I wait for them to be reachable via SSH. It always takes about 20-30 seconds to spin up. And then I'll just ping the servers. The next step, instead of ping, would be to do some kind of setup there, install software, clone a Git repository or something like that. So that does work quite nicely, and I have a hunch that by creating a servers.yaml file and including that in my Ansible variables, and making them available under the name server data, the question that occurred to me was, did I just reinvent the inventory? Because I think if I do this, define my student VMs here, and list them as hosts without any IP address, as I did before, because when I started this playbook, I thought, okay, the inventory, there you list your servers, but that requires them to be known in advance, because in the tutorial that I used that I emulated, there were IP addresses listed for each server. And I'm pretty sure I can use an inventory without assigning IP addresses and have it provide the same functionality as my variables file. And I can even assign additional variables here, like, for example, use root and use a specific SSH key that doesn't require me to enter a passphrase. So I guess that's something we could try. But let's first see if the playbook as it is still works. Am I getting Ansible-y? Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I feel like I'm getting to grips with Ansible a little bit more. Sebisnaga, welcome to the stack. The desktop environment is GNOME of all things, but I'm trying a new extension called PaperWM, which adds tiling to GNOME in a way that I didn't know existed. It basically turns workspaces into horizontal virtual desktops by mainly putting windows next to each other and allowing me to scroll between them. You can also stack them on top of each other, and that's probably beneficial for small status windows, but mostly I tend to put windows side by side and simply scroll between them. And that does work with the mouse. I just need to mouse over here and it'll automatically reveal the full window, or I can also click into a window to make sure that I get its focus. So yeah, it's really interesting. I've only been running PaperWM since yesterday, but I'm pretty intrigued, and it might be a keeper. And it's just the current version of GNOME. I think it's GNOME 45, right? What's the current desktop environment version? How do I find out, actually? I guess in the settings app. See, open the settings app. That opens next to here, and it tells me, oh, there's another window if you like. So I can scroll over here. I can also use keyboard commands to move that over. So that's pretty neat, I have to say. So about, we are using system details. Doesn't 45 GNOME 45. Okay. I'm running the current version of Fedora Silverblue 39. Actually, the Universal Blue version, Bluefin DX, but it's Fedora Silverblue, so it should be pretty much up to date. Except I'm not running the absolutely latest version of Fedora Silverblue, because in that version the V4L kernel module seems to be broken, because I upgraded my desktop and then I couldn't use the virtual cam feature in OBS anymore. And so I rebooted, as you do with Fedora Silverblue, chose the previous installation, and the virtual camera was back. But that means I'll have to check if there's another update that will fix the issue with the V4L kernel module. Now, Method Isakolov, hello. Yeah, I'm happy to be back on. Apologies for the break. No apology. Nope, not sorry. I had taken 2 weeks off over Easter to visit family. I did work for 1 week, and then I took actual holidays for another week. Enjoyed my time off, recharged my batteries, and now I'm happy to be back. And programming should now resume as scheduled again. Which means tomorrow we're going to do the Monospace Office Hour, where you can drop by and ask questions about software engineering, about Linux system administration, all these things. So if that's something you would like to do, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Irish time, you can join me and see if I can answer your questions. Now, in order for to be able to test this, I need to actually set an environment variable with my Hetzner Cloud token. And so excuse me while I'm actually setting this up. That's oh dear, is it hcloud token? I think it is. And then I need one password to look up my token. No, there's an. It's Hetzner API Cloud token, and we'll use this one. Now, let's see if I do Ansible playbook setup, right? Is that the way to do it? That's another thing that I'd like to explore, and maybe we'll do that today. I had to remember how to invoke Ansible Playbook because I'm not yet really familiar with Ansible. There's not much experience that I've gathered so far. For these things, it's using my ED25519 key. That not only doesn't work because I haven't added it to my Hetzner Cloud account, but also it requires my hardware security key, and so that's not going to work. Question is, well, what happens if I enter my PIN? It says permission denied. Of course it does. It also says incorrect passphrase, so that wasn't even the right passphrase. So let me try again. Let me see. Where's that? Interesting. Okay, yeah, we're taking a quick ad break, so in the meantime, I'll sort out my authentication issues here. Oh, I'll have to explicitly tell it to use the inventory file, and that then will, of course, use the correct SSH key as well. I was wondering why it was picking the wrong SSH key in the first place. Yeah, thank you, Balthazar. Okay, so the error message I'm now getting is invalid format, actually, and permission denied, and that's because my ED25519 key isn't stored with the Hetzner Cloud instance. As you can see in the playbook, I am only... Yeah, I'm including 2 SSH keys with which this instance gets deployed, but neither of them is the ED key. And I was a little bit worried because before it told me that I'm using the wrong passphrase, so I actually thought I had forgotten my passphrase, but that's not the case. This time I entered it correctly without mistyping, and the error message is much more sensible here. And thanks, Balthazar. I was wondering why it was picking the wrong key, and that's because I didn't explicitly tell it to use the inventory file. So if I do that, even though the inventory file doesn't get used otherwise, it should at least use the correct SSH key. No, it doesn't. Interesting. So let's see. Yeah, that of course does still not work. However, how did this... wait. I was just about to ask, how did this work in the past? That is strange. Let me see. So we are using my specific Ansible key here, which is also not stored with Hetzner, is it? That's something that I'll have to check. It did work on my laptop because there's only one key on that laptop. And here on my workstation there are two keys, and instead of the old RSI one, it picks the newer ED one. And that happens to be the wrong one. Okay. I don't think the ED one can even work, because not only do I have to enter my passphrase, I also have to touch my security key, even though maybe I just didn't get the message and I didn't saw it blinking over there. Let's see what happens if... Let's see what happens if I enter my passphrase correctly and then I touch the security key. Let's see. So, passphrase. I'll get an immediate permission denied. I don't even get the chance of touching my security key. Okay. So, why is it still not using the Ansible key though? Well, let me check what's actually stored with Hetzner and make sure that my Ansible key is actually stored there as well. Otherwise, this won't work. Anyway. Well, I guess my standard key should work, especially since I'm using the Secure Shell agent that prevents me having to enter my passphrase again. So, is there an Ansible key in the first place? Let's make sure that's actually the case. Say Ansible. Yes, there is. Meta recommends using SSH add. Yeah, as convenient it is that Ansible simply requires SSH to work, and you don't need any agents running on your machines that you would like to manage, as it is the case with Chef. Getting SSH to work reliably is also quite the challenge from time to time. So, yeah, that's something that's still a challenge. My Ansible playbook command doesn't even use the key that I advise it to use. And even if it were to use it, it wouldn't work because the Ansible key isn't stored in my user account on the cloud. So I guess let's solve the latter problem first. Excuse me while I'm working behind the scenes here. So let me close one password here. And let's actually, do I have another Firefox window here? Where did it go? It went here. That's not what I wanted. Excuse me. Oh, yeah, here we go. So let's move that. No, let's keep it here actually. Cool. No. Oh, come on. Okay, where's my user account? Well, I guess under user account. Interesting. But that's not where I need to go. Confused there. I need to go into my monospace project on the security. And there I have to add another SSH key, which is going to be my Ansible key. So let me grab that quickly. That's home.ssh id rsa ansible.pub. Let's hope that copied over. Looks like it did. Let's call that gvis ansible. Okay. But that also means that we'll have to create new servers, so I'll go ahead and delete these servers while I'm on the cloud account already. That feels dangerous. Having those test servers listed with my community instance. And that reminds me I definitely need to set up backup properly for the community. Now, I think we are good here. And that means this key needs to be deployed once we set up the servers. Where's the setup? Yeah, here. So we need the gvis ansible key here too. And maybe that even fixes it, because sometimes it's really opaque how SSH chooses the keys that it's going to try. Maybe it did actually try the Ansible key, then it realized that the Ansible key doesn't work on that machine because I didn't deploy it, and then it fell back on my ED key. So that might be the case. Hello, Moo. Hey, Marcus. How you doing? So let's give this another try. Let's see. If I run this with my inventory file, Bethesda says, speaking of backups, my offsite backups are currently replicating to Ed's storage box right now. Okay. Did you actually choose using a storage box after all? Okay, that looks much better, actually. Unreachable means that my tasks to actually try and repeat until SSH has actually become available doesn't quite work, but if I rerun this playbook, by now SSH should be available. And again, it's asking for the ED key. That's a bummer. And of course, that still gets denied. Wouldn't work anyway, because it doesn't even ask for my... Oh, wait, there is another issue here. It doesn't have any SSH ask pass. Why is that? It tries to ask for my password, but that's not there, and so it asks on the console, which of course doesn't really harmonize with Ansible running. But that's interesting. Did something change in recent system updates here after all? There's definitely no SSH ask pass. Is that a different... sorry. Is that a different package? Yes, it is. OpenSSH ask pass. And that's not installed. But apparently it's configured, I guess. Oh, so you're still not perfectly happy with the cost per terabyte, but there are savings that still make it worthwhile. Okay, it's not optimal, but it does the job. That's good to hear. Now... Oh, I hate these side quests. Will I now debug why OpenSSH AskPass doesn't work? I don't want to install it if it's not necessary, if I can help it. Yeah, the self-hosted backup target is probably going to be the best solution if you have very high storage volume requirements. Oh dear. Let me see. OpenSSH AskPass. When does that get used? Why does my SSH want to use it even though it's not there? And Meto, I didn't forget what you said about SSH ed, but the thing is I have keychain running that gets used every time I start a new shell session, so it does have the SSH add in there as well. Keychain would ask me for my passphrase at this point if it wasn't already entered before. So yeah, I didn't ignore you. I did not add the key for the ED key though, so I could do that, right? So let's try that. Is it still -I? Is that consistent? No, it's not. Well, that's a host key. Oh, it's simply... It doesn't require -I because that's the actual argument, I guess. Okay. Well, let's try that. SSH add .ssh id. Okay, that was easy. And what happens if I keep running my playbook? Maybe I should add the Ansible one as well. Well, I didn't get asked for the ask pass. Error message disappeared now. And now I'm getting the permission denied. That's to be expected because it's not on the instance, and it's not supposed to be. Proxeus, hey, welcome to the stack. Good to have you. Thanks for joining us here. I hate this. You're determined to do something, to do some work, and then these issues keep getting in the way. We'll have to ask why Ansible isn't using the key that I'm telling it to. Here's the inventory, and it's Ansible SSH private key file, right? Ansible SSH private key file. Setting a remote user. That's just remote user. What's Ansible user, actually? Is that just a variable that I set arbitrarily? I think we are severely lacking documentation here. What's Ansible user? And why did it work on my laptop? Oh, I hate this. Let's go. Yeah, here we have the variable. Okay, setting a remote user. There's remote user. Oh, come on. It's remote user in a task? It's Ansible user in an inventory, both listed as an attribute or listed as a group variable. So, that's consistency, isn't it? Wow. Okay, Ansible user is the remote user. Good. Now, apparently, secure shell agent is a valid choice here. But another way to add private key files without using SSH agent is using Ansible SSH private key file, which doesn't seem to work though. Let's search for private key file used by SSH. Useful is using multiple keys, and you do not want to use SSH agent. I actually do not want to use SSH agent because of the complications with the hardware token key. Thanks for the tip, Balthazar. Yeah, the Ansible config file is something that I haven't touched yet, which I probably should too, at least once I get to my second playbook. The thing is, this worked before, but I don't know under which environmental conditions. And this is giving me a headache. What's giving me a headache is that I'm a little bit tense and that I didn't get enough sleep. Because, of course, my 11-year-old had to play rough, and someone threw a stick at him and hit his head right next to the eye. And so he came home with a gash. We were able to stop the bleeding, but the gash didn't really close with the kind of band-aid we used. So my wife had to drive him to the ER, to the what is it called over here? A&E. Simply to get the gash closed properly, professionally with glue, I guess, so it doesn't leave that much of a scar right next to the eye. I mean, he would probably be proud for quite a few years, but eventually he might probably fault us for not having that treated properly. So yeah, they spent hours in A&E last night. I think they came home at about 1 a.m. or something like that. So while I did get to bed earlier, not too much earlier, to be honest, so I'm lacking a little bit of sleep today. But not as much as my wife. And yeah, thanks for the best wishes. As I said, it wasn't really an emergency. We were able to stop the bleeding quite easily, but we didn't want the wound to heal like it was. Smiling big, yeah, exactly. I think they spent 3 or 4 hours waiting for the nurse to be able to attend to them. And Balthazar is right, yeah, I during my Easter holidays, I worked on my laptop, which has a different SSH profile. I think there's only one key on there as well. And apparently that key did work, especially with keychain / SSH agent. But still, I mean, that's why I have this in here. It's supposed to use this particular key, which it does not. And that is strange. So let me see, can we... Let's see. That's an ini file. Here we have the Ansible SSH private key file. Yeah. So this is supposed to be a variable in here, right? Like here, yeah. For that specific group, which is, in this case, the student VM. Oh, I'm stupid! And that's exactly where ansible.config comes in, right? This is, of course, only the key that is supposed to be used for student VMs. And since I'm not using my inventory group here yet, which I probably should, the key doesn't get applied either. Oh, I'm stupid. Yeah, that's beginners. That's a beginner's issue, skill issue. Oh dear. Okay, with that resolved, let's go ahead and create an ansible.config file, because that is definitely required here. So ansible.cfg private key, right? Let's see what Stack Overflow can tell us here. Variable name you're looking for is yes, that's it. Vars. Can I not set that as a default? You should set it at vars level. In the host vars, group vars, vars section of an entry, or in a play entry. Ansible built-in set fact. I definitely could use a massage. Oh, here we are. Ansible config. Private key file. Thank you for that. So let's create that. I assume having that locally should work, right? Assumption. I know. Inventory.yaml, even though it's not used. Remote user. Yeah, let's use that here too. So that's root. And path to key file is home.ssh id _ Ansible. Okay. Which means I can remove that from here because it's just misleading, as it did before. So that's that, right? Will this be used automatically? Ah. And now SSH availability does actually work. Look at that. It did work. Once you do it right, it works. Thanks for being gentle, Praxeus. That's very kind of you. Of course, yeah, I'm just kidding. When I say I'm an idiot or I'm stupid, I think I'm serious. I think at that moment I'm actually frustrated with myself, and especially for being silly in public. I should stop that immediately. Thanks for reminding me to be kind to myself. I mean, I'm learning in public here, and that's the whole plan. Let's be honest, learning in public means failing in public. I get your point, Smiling Big, and that's why I was about... Nerdy Biker, asking me to hydrate. Thank you very much. Ah, shoot. I should have snoozed the ads for a few more minutes. But yeah, let's wait for the ads to finish. So true, Mulol. So true. I agree 100%. Kindness, compassion, and love, beginning with yourself. Self-care is so important. Can't highlight that enough. Okay, that's great. Now that this works, we can start exploring this a little bit more now. Ten more seconds. Thanks for letting me know, Smiling Big. All right, we're back. Well, now that this works, we can explore this a little bit more. And hey, as I said, I can't highlight it enough. Mulol wrote, practice every day, kindness, compassion, and love, and beginning with yourself. Be kind to yourself, because the hero in you hears you and believes you. So, Nerdy Bike asks, what are we working on? I'm working on an Ansible playbook, exploring Ansible. It's a configuration management software that I'm not yet familiar with. I'm deeply familiar with Chef because we've been using that for more than a decade now at our hosting business. But Ansible is still not familiar to myself. So I decided, hey, I need to set up a student lab environment in the cloud. Why not use Ansible for that? And that's exactly what I'm doing at the moment. I've been struggling with SSH keys for half an hour at least, but now that's resolved. The main issue was that I misread my inventory file, and I don't even use my inventory file, and that's going to be the next step here. But let's maybe first commit things as they are right now. So let's commit this as working SSH key configuration. That's that. Maybe I just even push that to the repository. And next, I'll show you what I have here. So the main thing is that I'm provisioning cloud instances here for all the servers, for all the server data.servers that are listed in server data. And server data comes out of a file called servers.yaml, which I include here to get access to it as a variable. So the servers variable list here looks like this. And shortly after I built this and got it working that way, I realized, wait a minute, did I just rebuild the Ansible inventory here? And I think I did. So what I'm going to do is, instead of including the servers as a list of variables or as a YAML file, let's actually see. Inventory, yeah, it still talks about student 1 and student 2, and here it talks about server 1 and server 2. So I guess I'll use this, put it here, and the hosts are not... So, like... No, it's a hash. It's not an array, so... Like this. And then I guess we can even delete the server's YAML file, but for the time being we'll start by not including it. Yeah, so instead of server data... good question. Instead of server data... What are we going to do, actually? What are we going to use here? Because here it says hosts localhost because the API commands to spin up new cloud instances have to come from localhost. But I want them to iterate over the hosts that are listed in my inventory. Question is there a way to get the inventory list without using it explicitly here as the hosts? That's something that I don't know yet. Maybe that's why I have to use the variable approach, the include file approach. I'm not even sure. What to search for. Balthasar says you can specify the target for our task as localhost. What would be a good search query here? It's going to start with Ansible. Inventory group task localhost, something like that. How to use localhost in a host group. Not sure. Maybe that's going in the direction I'm asking myself. We are using Ansible as a way to set up and manage a Kubernetes cluster. To deploy application, we have Playbook that uses localhost to call kubectl. Yeah, same situation. The API calls are going to come from localhost. A part of a group in an Ansible host file? Huh? Now it's not. It's stopping to make sense to me. But that looks maybe like something I can use. They have a control node that's localhost, and then the Kubernetes nodes. And I'm not sure how to apply that to my situation. Bethesda says, so your server provisioning task targets localhost? Because you're talking to Hetzner, yeah. But I mean, if I can basically say, iterate over the hosts in, I think I named it student VMs, this group here. Iterate over student VMs, but apply this task from host. Oh, maybe that's something that yeah, that's something that I'll might have to do from this task, right? So, oops. So I would say student VMs, but this task. Yeah, let's put it right to the top. Ansible task target localhost. Yeah, I think now we're on the right track. Controlling where tasks run. Delegation and local actions, exactly. Delegating tasks. I can delegate to localhost. Okay, Brilliant. Thanks for looking this up for me, Balthazar. That's really nice of you to make that effort. It's appreciated. Okay, so I delegate this particular task. Delegate to a local host, even though the whole task here will iterate over student VMs. Now, this is the loop here. Do I still have to use a loop? I don't, right? That's implicit now because I'm using these hosts. Don't devalue your contributions, Balthazar. I mean, not everyone went and looked at their Ansible playbooks. Just you. And it'll still register everything in hcloud servers, so we can still use that after the fact. Right? Let's see. And here I'm using servers, which was the previous servers. No, that's the artificial group that I'm creating here, where I'm adding each hcloud instance to this servers group, so I can then use that here, and that'll iterate automatically or implicitly too. That looks good. Makes much more sense, and I guess we can actually delete the servers file now. I mean, if I need it back, it was committed to Git anyway. So let's do this. I don't have to use the -i here anymore because that's in Ansible config anyway. Oof. This task includes an option with an undefined variable. The error was item. Yeah, you're right. I guess we need... Yeah, we need some reference to the actual inventory name. How do I reference that? That should be easy to find with a run-of-the-mill Ansible tutorial, because that's basically just iterating over an inventory. Patterns? No, building an inventory. Let's see. It's just how the inventory gets used. How do I reference a specific inventory item in my loop here? Working with Ansible inventory, basics and use cases. Let's see. Here we have the inventory. Where's a playbook example though? Okay, no, we need to take a different approach. I need to remove that and get some tutorial like this. Building an inventory, creating a playbook. Yeah, those are all implicit, which is nice, but inventory.hostname. Okay. Let's take a look if that's the actual key. Ansible inventory. Yeah, inventory hostname would be a sensible search query here. Wait, what are we looking at here? Special variables, magic variables. Let's simply search for host name. Group names, that's the list of the groups we have. Okay. Inventory dir. Okay. Inventory host name. The inventory name for the current host being iterated over. You're right, Balthazar, thank you. This is not affected by delegation, otherwise it reflects the origin host for the task. So since we did actually, well, hostname seems to be implicit here. It's not a key in the YAML file, but yeah, okay, let's use inventory underscore hostname. That's that, and that's actually, nope. Oh yes, no, well, wait, if we loop over hcloud servers results, which is registered here, yeah, that, okay. I think this could work. It tries to resolve hostname server 1, which is not, of course, reachable. Uh-huh. Yeah. Wait. Why does it even try to connect? Provision servers? Is this here? We shouldn't have to. SSH there, that's delegated to localhost. Does it try the same here? I guess I should make sure that this is also run on localhost and that it doesn't try to run the @host task on the actual machine. I mean, that would be silly. Nope. Huh. I mean, of course it can't resolve the hostname server 2. These are just getting created on the cloud, and there is definitely not a DNS entry there yet. That might be become part of the playbook. But yeah, I got that. I am using it now in both. Oh, wait, you're right. @host is the task, right? That's how this works? Uh-huh. That's not what you meant. One level up would be... Yeah, but the task level is this one. Okay. Do you mean like this? No, this worked before with delegate to in here. I mean, I could also try and do this here, maybe. I'm afraid you're right. Okay. So now it did provision these servers. And adding them to the server's variable did not work, has no attribute results. Mm-hmm. Just doing a little bit of trial and error here. No, that did not work. Invalid data passed to loop. It requires a list. That's not the error message I got before. before it says dict object has no attribute result, so it seems to be a dict object, but not doesn't have the results thingy. That's now getting into an interesting thing. Let's see. Now I need to learn about how to find and read the correct Ansible documentation. Exegete! Hey! Welcome to the stack. Welcome back! How is life? Ansible is treating us quite indifferently, I'm afraid. It seems to work once I tell it the right thing to do. The problem is that I mostly don't know how to tell it that. I think the problem is that now that I've changed to the more implicit loop based on the inventory, things aren't as clear anymore. Like before, I was able to register these servers in hcloud servers, and then I could iterate over hcloud servers, but that doesn't work anymore for some reason, and I assume it's because this provision servers task up here gets executed differently, and that's why the hcloud servers register here does get populated differently. Lots of sickness, and she got a scalp laceration. Join the club. I just told the audience that yeah, my wife spent quite a few hours late last night with in A&E with the 11-year-old.
Flush the bombers, get the subs in launch mode. We are at DEFCON 1. DEFCON
1. Welcome, Raiders. Shari makes art. Thank you so much for the raid. Again, let's use the defend commands to defend against the Raiders. And of course, some Raiders start using the attack command to see what our defenses are worth. Hey everyone, I'm back and already get raided. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I'm Jochen, the Monospace mentor. Here on Full Stack Live, I do mostly my daily work, which is either infrastructure work for my main business, which is a managed hosting company, or I, as I'm doing at the moment, I'm working on my new business, which is monospacementor.com, a IT teaching business where I teach people about DevOps, system administration, and software engineering, things that I've been doing for many decades now. And so, yeah, if you're looking for DevOps content, you have come to the right place. Let's catch up with chat. Shari Art asks how it's going. It's going great. Having a lot of fun here, even though I'm learning the painful way. I'm exploring a new automation tool for infrastructure called Ansible. And while Ansible is probably a little bit simpler than the software that I've been using for more than 10 years now, which is called Chef, Ansible has the disadvantage that it's completely new to me. So I'm learning here with the help of my viewers, and that's definitely both painful and fun. So, and we were talking about having kids in A&E. So yeah, well, I was just narrating that got a branch thrown at him, which hit him in the head, and so he came home with a gash next to his eye. While we were able to stop the bleeding quite quickly, he cried for much longer than the wound was bleeding. Turned out that we weren't able to close the gash in a way that it would heal nicely. And so my wife decided to get him to A&E anyway, to simply have the wound treated properly and professionally, probably with some kind of medical glue, so that it would heal in a way that wouldn't leave the biggest scar in the world. So, Exegete, let's start a club, I guess. Yeah, he's fine. He always comes home with wounds, so that wasn't the problem. It was more annoying, actually, that my wife had to spend hours waiting for a nurse to tend to them, simply to probably have a 5-minute procedure done. And then I think they came home at 1 or 2 a.m. Last night, so yeah, that wasn't really great. Now, what else did we have here? See, lots of attacks and defense. I see you having fun there. Marley Code asks, you do cloud infrastructure? Yes, I do. So what I'm doing at the moment, and let me get that on screen for you, is as a teacher, especially as an online teacher, I have the problem of providing my students with an environment where they can make practical experiments. I don't want to just do lectures where I can't be sure that what people are going to take away from. I want them to have practical experience. I want them to try things, to fail, to learn from failure, such as just like I do here on stream. And for that, I need to provide them with some kind of environment. And I mean, what better environment to use than the cloud, where I can spin up machines, provision them in a way that is useful for my courses, and then after the fact simply tear them down and they're gone, and nothing's left over. And that's why I decided, okay, let's do some learning in public and not use Chef as I tend to do. Let's explore Ansible here, and so that's exactly what I'm doing. Chessman81 asks, do I see a Commodore 64 in the background? No, you don't. I would assume that you are referring to the beige part down here. That is just a keyboard. Well, just a keyboard is maybe selling it short. It's a new Model F keyboard. It's built the way the olden IBM keyboards were built, i.e. built like a tank. This keyboard can be used for personal defense. It can also destroy your desk if you drop it. So it's definitely a great thing. It's not a Commodore 64 though. Even though I have fond memories of the Commodore machines, I started using a Commodore VIC-20. That was my first home computer with which I learned programming basic in 1984. And then I went on and upgraded to the Commodore 128, which of course had the 64 built in. And a Z80 on top that was able to run CP/M. Yeah, I'm definitely in the retro camp that way, but it's I don't have any home computers back there, but mini computers I do. The blinking lights down here, those you can't actually see them. Let's go over a little bit. The blinking lights here. Let's not overcomplicate things. The blinker lights here. This is a replica of a PDP-11. Which is a very important historic reference because Unix was developed on a PDP-11, and the thing down here is a replica of that PDP-11. Of course, it runs on a Raspberry Pi, as all these replicas do, but that Raspberry Pi then in turn runs SimH, which is a simulation software for historical computing platforms, and SimH in turn runs a PDP-11. So this is actually a working simulated PDP-11 that can run the Unix versions of old. I have a Unix v6 and a Unix v7 running on that machine, if I choose to. So that's definitely one of my most beloved retro pieces I have here. Okay. What do you mean, weird layout? It's more or less a typical ANSI layout, but it's the HHKB variant, to be honest. So it deviates a little bit, but it's not completely weird. Or did you mean the white keyboard up here? So many keyboards, right? The white keyboard here is another replica. It's a replica of the Apple M1001A, which was the keyboard that came with the Macintosh Plus, I think. But instead of a plastic case, as the original Mac had, this keyboard back there is fully aluminum, so it can be used as a personal defense weapon too. So, Shari mentioned I once needed 5 staples in my head after I fell out of a tree. Yeah, as much as my 11-year-old climbs, so far he hasn't fallen from a tree in a way that needed a medical treatment, but I guess any day now. He himself says, here's my empathy, took a belt buckle to the eye last night, accidentally self-inflicted. That must hurt too. Yeah, I can imagine doing something like that when I'm distracted and putting my belt out of trousers before putting them into the laundry or something like that, and then swinging the belt at myself. Yeah, oh dear. Okay, so I guess we're caught up. Okay, you were referring to the beige one. Yeah, that's the replica of the IBM Model F. It's a steel or actually zinc case. Super heavy, and with its buckling spring keys or key switches, it's also loud as hell, which is great. Well, now let's get back to work, shall we? Let's get myself into the corner here, and let's do a little bit of work here. Now, we were exploring the error message why hcloud servers didn't get registered anymore in a way that was usable to the next task here. And, oh, there is an ad break coming in a few seconds, so bear with us while we are running this ad, just to keep people just joining the stream getting pre-roll ads. And Molly Cold, thanks for the follow. While we're running the ad, I'll investigate the register thingy here. So, I guess we should look for hcloud server. I'm still not really sure how this register mechanism works in the first place, so I should probably read up on these things instead of simply copying and pasting stuff without understanding it. Copy and paste is always great, as long as it works, but if it doesn't work, you can't even tell why it doesn't, so... I guess return values is the important thing here. So it does return hcloud server. With a lot of information, which is great. Let's park this here. But I guess I should learn about how this register mechanism works in the first place. Registering variables. Registered variables may be simple variables, list variables, dictionary variables, or complex nested data structures. The documentation for each module includes a return section describing the return values for that module. Run your playbook with -v. Let's go ahead and do that. Can I just append that here? So both of these tasks up here return their hcloud server value as documented, which does include the IPv4 address. Okay. So instead of results, I need hcloud servers, which is the register that I'm using here. I guess we're back from the ad, and Razor Beckett over on YouTube asks, what's the difference between SRE and DevOps? Are both the same? I guess that depends on who you ask. They are definitely very related. DevOps is an earlier term. That's I guess a little bit older than SRE. And DevOps in its name says that it's basically the bridging the two previously heavily divided groups of developers on one side and operations people on the other side. The way I express this all the time is developers are paid to make changes, to innovate and add new features and things like that. And operations people are paid to keep things running, which basically means not making any changes. So these two groups have completely different incentives and goals. And that meant that in the past, they were basically mortal enemies. And me coming from the operations side of things as a system administrator, I always perceived developers as endangering my production environment and being reckless with changes and things like that. And when they made changes, they'll just make some changes that nobody understands, throw them over the wall, which is also called the wall of confusion between the two groups, and then operations people have to deal with the fallout. And of course, taking the other perspective, from the perspective of a developer, operations people were always perceived as roadblocks that are impediment to change. At some point, people realized things can't stay that way with this constant tug of war between the two groups, and that's where the DevOps movement came from, where they said, well, we have common goals, right? The common goal is to advance the business, to make the business owners more money, and maybe ourselves too. Let's see how we can cooperate and collaborate to achieve this greater goal, which is beyond our own individual goals. And so that's where the DevOps movement comes from, which is developers gaining a perspective how operations works and vice versa. Site reliability engineering, on the other hand, is more an operations side of thing in my mind, but it heavily applies software engineering principles to the operations side of things. So instead of system administrators SSHing to all the servers and doing local changes and stuff like that, SRE takes a software engineering approach, or an engineering approach in general. That's why it's got the E in the name, after all. And looks for ways to automate and run stuff as efficient as possible, so that SRE people or operations people can too contribute to innovation instead of running after server incidents all the time. So the SRE book that made SRE popular, published by O'Reilly and written by a few Google engineers, says that SREs should spend at least 50% of their work time also innovating and looking for new solutions instead of just doing maintenance work. And that's probably the main difference to the traditional view of system administration, where the job was mostly tending to existing systems and setting up new ones, but not doing a lot of engineering work or innovation stuff. Of course, you can, and people did actually write books about that. So this is a very shallow description of things. We could go much, much deeper in that, but I think on a surface level, I think that should clarify things at least a little bit for you. Thank you, I'm skipping it. That's very kind of you. Now, I was on this... yeah, you're very welcome. I'm happy to answer questions, so don't hold back. If you have any questions about what I'm doing here, I have a lot of questions about that too. Or anything else, feel free to ask. And by the way, even if this stream is over, you can still get your questions answered tomorrow, because on Friday afternoons at 2 p.m. Irish time, I'm doing my Monospace Office Hour, where all I do is answering questions. I don't do any live coding. I don't get distracted with my own stuff. This Office Hour tomorrow is going to be 100% for you, where you can ask questions and I try my best to answer them. So if I can't answer your question today, pop by tomorrow and try again. Now, and don't forget to follow on Twitch or subscribe to on YouTube, so you'll get a notification when I go online tomorrow. So yeah. So hcloud servers, I would assume that's from the error message that is a dict, right? No, it's not. It is. It's a dict object, and that has no attribute results. I was referencing that and trying to get an attribute results, which doesn't work anymore. How can I now iterate over a dictionary if it's not a list but a dictionary? Maybe I should ask the Ansible documentation exactly that. Dictionary variables. Referencing key value dictionary variables. When you use variables defined as key value dictionary, also called a hash, you can use individual specific fields from that dictionary. Oh, sorry. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, you should definitely get to see what I'm doing. Now, let me think. If hcloud servers is a dictionary, you know what? This whole group iterates over student VMs, right? Provision servers does so, and that works nicely. And so we don't need this loop either. Yes, now things are falling into place. What I'll do here, we'll register, okay. It's not just this task that iterates over my inventory, it's of course this task as well. And so hcloud servers doesn't get populated with a list anymore. I simply register the current instance that gets created by this hcloud server task here. I register that as hcloud server, and then I use the add host task here and simply reference hcloud server and its IPv4 address and add it to the servers group. And once that's done for the first server, Ansible iterates over the remaining hosts in student VMs, and then it runs the second it creates the second server if it doesn't exist yet, and then it adds the second server to my artificial servers group as well. And only then we leave the implicit loop through our student VMs. And now we can go into the next loop that doesn't iterate over student VMs, but over servers, the group that we've created and populated here. And then we are simply trying to get SSH access, and that's that. So I think I'm pretty optimistic that this is going to work now. I'm starting to think in Ansible ways, I think. But still doesn't yet work. It says the task includes an option with an undefined variable. The error was dict object has no attribute IPv4 address. Yes. And that's because the return value that we store in our register is called hcloud server. And now I guess it gets a little bit confusing because the register is named hcloud server 2. So it should work if I do hcloud server, which is the register or the variable that we've registered. And that will then have the hcloud server complex object that was returned by the hcloud server task up here. And I guess that's going to work. And if it does, we'll have to do some renaming just to make it less confusing. This looks great. Now we'll wait for SSH, but that should actually work. I guess we shouldn't wait for that long initially, should we? Uh-huh. Server 1 changed. No idea why and what it did, but okay. If you run this a second time, nothing should change. Still changed server 1. And wait a second. We also did only check and then ping server 1. I would assume that server 1 is the 37 address here, and server 2 did not get touched, even though it's listed here. But since it didn't change, it also didn't get... Oh, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, this could have further reaching implications here, but let's, since syntactically at least things worked, we'll register this not as hcloud server because that's confusing. We'll call it hcloud instance, or maybe we'll just call it instance. And then we can say, okay, instance will then have the predefined contents, hcloud server, and so on and so forth. All right. Let's run this in verbose mode again, because I'm not really sure. So it ran the provision servers for both servers. So it uses our inventory file correctly. And we get the metadata for our servers back, including the IP addresses. And yes, server 1 is 37181. And that's the one that gets also checked for SSH and then pinged. What's happening to server 2 though? Server 1 changed in terms of add host. It did. Host name is the IP address. That's interesting. Uh-huh. And it says changed to. I don't exactly see why that happens, but that's again because I have no idea what the add host task actually does. I just copied that from another example. So let's find out. Add host. The add host module. Add a host to the Ansible playbook in-memory inventory. Uh-huh. We can use group. Yeah, that's exactly what we are doing. And then we have a name, and that's the host name or the IP address. What are we doing? Yeah, we're adding name. And here we're adding the actual IP address to the servers group. Problem is that only happens to server 1. Only server 1 ends up in our servers group. Not sure if delegate to localhost is necessary. Let's see if that changes the behavior. Nope. Still, only the 181 gets added to the servers group, and that's server 1. Server 2 with the 183 doesn't. And since the part down here is to configure our servers, not just to ping them, this is actually a problem. If down here only server 1 gets tended to, then our servers won't be set up identically. Actually, server 2 will not be set up at all. So, yeah, let's try and find out why that is. Most of these, the heavy lifting now happens implicitly thanks to the inventory mechanism. So just if you joined earlier, my inventory simply lists 2 hosts under the student VMs group, server 1 and server 2. Just symbolic names. And my playbook then iterates over student VMs and creates Hetzner Cloud instances using the inventory host name of each of the entries in student VMs. And this host name is also the only information available. As you saw, this YAML file is very, very short. So we iterate with the host name. So we'll get an instance called student1 and an instance called student2. When student1 gets created or updated, it gets registered in instance. And then we apply that variable here in the add host module, where we say take instance, its hcloud server return value and the IPv4 address field in there, and add it to a new group called servers. So basically, student VMs is a group that I've predefined as basically a dictionary with 2 symbolic names, student1 and student2. And this part here turns that into a group servers that is defined by a list of or dictionary of IP addresses. And then down here we can iterate over these hosts and try and wait until they're available or reachable via SSH. And then we'll ping them. But that only happens to one host because the other doesn't get added to the servers group here. That's really strange. So Razor Beckett asked, what are your thoughts on the recent xzlib vulnerability and the discovery of a potential backdoor? Well, I guess we dodged a bullet there, didn't we? So yeah, that's fascinating that someone actually noticed, when my SSH connections fail, they are half a second slower than usual. Let's find out why. That's amazing, and I think that part is definitely a strength of the open source ecosystem. Because, yeah, people can actually say, okay, that's strange, let's investigate. In other ecosystems, like Windows or something, the story would have gone like this. Strange, it's half a second slower than usual. Must have been a recent update. Let's get a coffee. So I guess that's definitely something that I really value, that people can actually go and investigate. But of course, this having been very coincidental, of course, was a very close shave. The backdoor almost got into new distribution releases undiscovered. And so, yeah, that doesn't feel great, to be honest. And yeah, I mean, what's also fascinating is the way the attackers, or the attacker, still unknown, social engineered their way into the XE project. And hats off, kudos, massive kudos to Lasse, the original XE maintainer, not only for taking care of that library for ages without any thank you and any compensation, but also how gracefully he took the whole incident, having only learned about it during his Easter break, which he spent with friends, and he immediately jumped in and tried to do a review of what happened. And by now, there is a page on the XE project that describes what happened. I mean, people have been researching that as well, of course, but I'm referring in particular to Lasse, the XE maintainer there, and there have been recent PRs to the XE repository where Lasse committed a few changes with the comment, the other maintainer disappeared suddenly. So, I mean, if I got hit by this issue with a project of mine, and suddenly my project got into the spotlight globally, having the sense of humor to still go ahead and take it with kind of a smile, you have to admire that. It's really great. And yes, I mean, the whole community is now, of course, thinking, well, how can we prevent things like that from happening again? Are things like that already happening and things like that? So that's of course something that we'll have to take into consideration now. And it's going to be exciting to see what the community is going to come up with, which processes will change, how support for open source maintainers, especially of software components that are used widely, how that is going to happen, if there are going to be organizations that are going to take care of maintainers in some way. I think the coming months will be interesting to see if we return to business as usual, or if there will be changes that improve the ecosystem overall. I'm pretty curious to see what's going to happen there. So I can't see anything in the add host module. That tells me you're holding it wrong, and it's clear why the second host doesn't get included. I would still expect the second host to be included from these examples. Let's see. What are we doing here? Add host to group just created with variable foo equals 42. We run Ansible built-in add host. I guess I can... It's okay to leave off the Ansible built-in and simply use add host. And I don't think delegate to localhost is necessary, or let alone makes sense here. It's using host name here, but host name is, I think, if I remember correctly, just an alias for name here. Still, host name might be more explanatory, so I'll happily change my code here. By the way, Rezo, let me know if my answer hit what you were aiming at with your question, or if you'd like me to elaborate on something. Let's see. Add host to multiple groups. Okay, so I can pass in a list of groups, which isn't necessary in my case. But hey, let's see. Maybe I should switch to single quotes just to create a habit, because that seems to be default in YAML. So let's change this. And here they say new IP, and I say instance hloud server IP4 v4 address. That's fine. Of course, you can construct strings. Razor, feel free to ask. I mean, if it's not too personal of a question, it's usually fine. If not, I'll let you know. I'm usually pretty liberal in letting people ask stuff, and also letting people, for example, post links. Under the condition, abuse that privilege once and you're banned. What is with this loop here? Add all hosts running this playbook to the done group, where we use Ansible play hosts. Interesting. So Twitch tells me there's another ad break coming up, and we're running these ad breaks mostly because it'll allow people to join the stream without having pre-roll ads right away. So please bear with me while we're doing these breaks. So this loop contradicts the more implicit stuff that I've been talking about, where this should happen automatically. Yeah, it depends on context, I guess. I could do something that it won't address the problem, but it just occurred to me that maybe I should use a more precise group name like server IPs, because that's the only information that's going to be available in this group. Yeah. And then again, why would I only add the IPv4 address here? What I should do, I think, yeah, if you're calling this servers, let's revert this to servers. Just had an idea. If I can add more information here, as apparently I can, I could actually say hcloud server, and that's going to be instance hcloud server. So I have the full dictionary that got returned by the task above, and I can reference that again if necessary. That might be helpful, might not, but why lose this information if you get hold of it? So, Razor asks, aspiring sysadmin seeking advice. 18, no bash scripting, configured Arch Linux ground up, got me learn much about Linux. How should I approach learning more and advancing in this field? That's a great question. And I get asked this question a lot. You're definitely not alone. Let me check something. Something just popped into my mind. What is that? Oh yeah, the ad break just hit, so we'll take a short break and then I'll answer Rezo's question. Alright, and we're back from the ad break. Thanks for bearing with us. So, Rezo asked, aspiring sysadmin seeking advice. I'm 18, I know bash scripting and configured Arch Linux ground up, got me learn much about Linux. How should I approach learning more and advancing in this field? That's a brilliant question, and as I said, many people have that question. I think asking this question in the first place is a great start. Now, and doing installing Linux, and by the way, Arch even, and getting into shell scripting, so you are also familiar with the terminal and shell, and so it is a great start. You are already doing fine. And asking how can I advance further is a great question as well. And that's exactly what I am building my business around. So if you go to monospacementor.com and go into the news section and click on newsletter and go to News from a Server Room number 4, my newsletter from March 25th. That is... no, it's not number 4. Sorry, it's number 3, isn't it? Yes. In number 3, I exactly answered that question. And let's get that on screen properly. All right, so in my mentor monologue, in my newsletter, I always cover stuff that is in my mind. And at that time, I was actually thinking about the same question that you asked too. So, sorry, I'm still using the wrong key here. So what I wrote is, in my conversations with people entering IT, a question that comes up a lot in different variations is, what do I have to know to be successful? That's why I thought I'd simply summarize my recommendations in the form of 5 skills junior engineers need. The first skill any engineer needs is problem solving. As a software engineer, your job is to turn ideas into code, or in the context of a system administrator, to turn code into working infrastructure and stuff that gets the business paid. And if you're a system administrator, you get paid to keep software running despite constant changes and entropy in general. Things like failing hard disks and stuff. Learning how to detect and analyze issues with your software and systems will be part of your day-to-day for most of your career. Once you've noticed that something's not working right, the next step is going to be to identify the root cause. Only then can you go on to design and implement an effective solution. So, cultivate your problem-solving skills to tackle system changes with confidence. On a recent Office Hour livestream, I was asked, what core skill would you advise new dev or ops learners to pick up, which could have an impact for their entire career? The answer didn't take me a single second. Note-taking. I wish I had learned about personal knowledge management decades ago. I would still have forgotten shelves worth of knowledge over the decades, but it would have not been lost. I would still be able to retrieve it whenever I need it. Effective note-taking can make your long-term growth so much easier. This applies even more in a team setting. Keeping organized, detailed documentation of configurations, troubleshooting steps, and solutions is essential if you want all this information to be easily available to current and future team members. Build a second brain from which you and your team can retrieve all important knowledge. Number 3. Our industry is evolving constantly and rapidly, which is why the ability to self-learn and adapt to new technologies is vital. In my experience, it's also great fun. I am deeply grateful that I can expand my skills and knowledge all the time. I consider curiosity one of the most crucial character traits of a great engineer. Stay curious, explore new topics, and leverage online resources, including my courses, maybe, to expand your knowledge continuously. The 4th skill a junior engineer should have is, if decades of work experience have taught me one thing, it's there is one resource of which we will never have enough, and that's time. There's always more stuff to do, but we all have only 24 hours in our day. That's why time management is another key skill for junior engineers to acquire. Your success depends on your ability to focus deeply on a task, despite having to juggle many at the same time. But mastering time management also includes making sure you get to take time off to recharge your physical and mental batteries. So start early with cultivating a way to manage your time that allows you to effectively handle your responsibilities for both your work and yourself. Always also take care of yourself. Finally, of course, this list cannot be complete without communication skills. Regardless if you're a software engineer, system administrator, or SRE, there won't be a week in your whole career where your work will not require you to communicate. This communication will take many forms: posting to Stack Overflow, asking questions in team chat, or notifying customers of an incident are just a few examples of situations in which your success will depend on your communication skills. Develop your communication skills to share knowledge, ask for help, and work effectively in a team. These are the 5 skills junior engineers need the most in my experience: problem solving, note-taking, time management, and communication skills. Exegete also added home lab, some projects that basically is the natural outcome of the curiosity side of things, and from the learning side of things, having a home lab allows you to test stuff, to try out things, to break things without them having terrible consequences. I definitely agree. Get some kind of a a sandbox environment where you can try out stuff. Only if it's only a VM, that's fine. Maybe you can simply get a used computer. Maybe you already have one that doesn't have to have AI level of performance, and experiment with that. Last year, I set up myself a fully working home lab server with lots of resources, terabytes of storage space, and 128 gigabytes of RAM, so I can run lots of VMs on there. It's not necessary to start a home labbing that way. You can really start small and extend if you want to. Tiberin, hello, how you doing? Welcome to the stack, good to have you. Tiberin writes, few days ago I find out AWS got a new service called Chatbot, which can help integrate SNS, the notification service topic, with a Slack. Every time something going around and make things different. Yep. I mean, how do you even keep track of all the services that AWS and the other cloud providers offer? That's probably why they have their certified solutions engineer positions and things like that, because even keeping track of that is a day job in itself. Exegete said, local universities often have surplus departments where old computers can be got for less than $50. Especially desktops are super cheap. And yes, and desktops are perfectly fine to install Linux on, even multiple times, and experimenting on a machine that's only €50 or $50 is of course great. I got myself as my home server, I used Dell Workstation. That must have cost thousands when it was new. It's from 2018, so by now it's outdated, at least for businesses. So I got it for a few €100, and I extended it with 6 or 8 terabyte disks. So that's my NAS storage now, running CFS, and I extended it, as I said, to 128 gigs of RAM, so I can spin up as many VMs as I need, and that's definitely great. Getting back to our discussion, Razel says, I have spent much time on EC2 running Docker containers, Vault Warden, Pi-hole, ASOX 5 proxy, Traffic as a reverse proxy, still running and maintaining. Hey, if you're doing all these things, you've basically answered your own question. I mean, that also is probably covered by the problem solving things. Running your own services always requires you to do problem solving. If you're clever, or if you've been burnt multiple times enough, then note-taking will start by itself, I guess. Curiosity is obviously what drives you to do these things. And maybe that means that focusing on time management and communication skills is an option for you. But seeing that you are joining a community like my chat here and ask about how can I progress, how can I grow, also speaks to your communication skills. You're not holding back and waiting for things to come your way. So hey, I wouldn't be worried if I were you. And of course, if you want to have these mentor monologues right in your email inbox, you can of course subscribe to my newsletter on monospacementor.com. So how do I get you sized in a way that makes sense again? All right, here we go. I really like this paper WM extension for GNOME. This kind of tiling does work after a short adoption period. I like the questions that Exegete is asking there. What happens if one of these apps crashes? Can you simulate crashing them? Make sure they come back up on their own? What about logging in terms of finding out what happened when they crash? Things like that. Yeah, that's going to be the sysadmin, the daily business in system administration, answering these questions. So yeah, perfect. Simply find new questions and try and find answers, just like I do here on stream. That's why I actually chose Ansible. I wanted to learn it. I wanted to learn how it's different from Chef. I wanted to know how it ticks, and yeah, step by step, I'm getting there. Okay, so what I did is I'm now preserving the full hcloud server information in addition to the IP address, but that won't change how Ansible iterates over the servers group, which still seems to have only one entry after server 1 and server 2 got provisioned. Rezo, you're more than welcome. I love it when people come in here and ask questions. Not always can I come up with a useful answer, of course, but I promise to do my best. Is this when I say subscribe and hit the notification bell? Exegete, are you asking me? Not sure. That's the song that sounds like Shadowrun, the role-playing game. Okay, so Exegete asks, were there any specific features or lack of features that made you choose GitLab? I think when I switched my company to GitLab, which basically brought me to GitLab as well, the decision to switch from GitHub to GitLab was a political motivation. Was it when Microsoft bought GitHub? Might have been, actually. I mean, turns out the acquisition, the consequences of that acquisition have been mostly benign so far. But, so I don't actually quite remember what my fears or concerns were at the time precisely. But I, as far as I can remember, there was the choice between GitHub, which was now owned by one of the big tech companies, whose motivations are often quite opaque and things like that, and GitLab, which has always been a very open source friendly company, a very transparent company as well. I mean, get hold of their company handbook. That's an extensive treatise on how GitLab works, how teamwork happens there, how they achieve the almost impossible and run a, I think, 1,500 people company as a fully remote organization. So I felt that GitLab was more matching my expectations as a citizen of the open source community and things like that. I mean, Microsoft has definitely embraced the open source community. But we all know what happens after embrace. So I think that was the main reason why I I suggested or more or less kicked off our migration from GitHub to GitLab. And now I like it here. GitLab has all the features that my business needs. It has all the features that I need personally. GitLab CI works nicely. I like the syntax of my GitLab CI YAML files. I think that pretty much summarizes what happened when we switched. But as Moo said, there might be historical documents that could shed a little bit more light on that. Marcus is our historian, and he keeps all the Slack archives and things like that, so he might be able to add to what I still remember. (2019), 5 years ago. Yeah, time flies. Company historian. I mean, hey, we've been going for almost 14 years now. There is use for a company historian. Whew, okay, it's almost 5 o'clock here. And I've been going for almost 3 hours, and there's still the unsolved mystery of why down here we only have one server getting processed, even though 2 have been provisioned. And it probably has to do with what happens here in this task, add Hetzner Cloud server to servers variable. Let me see, add host, groups, servers, and then we have the host name, which is the IP address, and then the variables, where I actually do set the hcloud server variable now with all the contents that's in there. And then it says change to. Question is, why is only server 1 changed and server 2 isn't? Maybe answering that question is for another time. I'll either do that offline and let you know on my next live coding stream, or we'll explore this and investigate this on my next live coding stream, which is going to be next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Irish time and UK time. And if you want to know when my streams happen, there's also the monospacementor.com website. If you go to news, and instead of newsletter you go to events, then you can see that there is the office hour coming up tomorrow, and then there is going to be another live coding stream on April the 16th. And so if you want to know what's going to happen next in the Monospace Mentor empire, then this page is definitely the canonical source for that. It also contains my courses and stuff like that, so if you're curious, simply reference this. Now, I think that's a point where I'd like to wrap things up for today. I had a great time getting back on Twitch after my Easter break, and it's been great to have all of you around. Thanks again for everyone who participated in chat. Also, thanks to Shari Makes Art for raiding the channel, which definitely helped with the amount of viewers we have. And as I said, tomorrow's going to be my office hour, so drop by if you have any questions, and we'll see how I'll fare with answering them. And maybe also consider joining the Monospace Mentor community. Even though it hasn't launched officially yet, you can actually sign up already. I'm building the server room, a community of DevOps practitioners, which is going to be very active. I'm going to spend a lot of time in there creating content, creating workshops, creating community events where people can get their problems solved and their questions answered. And if you want to boost your career, if you want to get ahead with people who are serious about growth, then the server room might be a good option. I'm pretty sure it is, actually. So if you like to take a look, simply go to monospacementor.com and check out the server room. With that, thanks everyone for joining us. I will see if we can actually go ahead and rate someone. Let me check if there's anyone online that would like to... You know what? We haven't rated Finite Singularity in quite a while. So we're going to do exactly that. So let me line that up for you. That's starting. So let's say hello to Finite Singularity. Wait, where did the raid go? It didn't click unraid. Oh, did I leave the window and that actually caused it to cancel? Interesting. So leaving my mouse in there. Thanks everyone. Hope to see you soon. Have a great day and say hello to Finite Singularity.